Hey teachers, thanks so much for coming. So this is your first year and I know you guys are probably just freaking out, but don't worry, we all want to be great teachers and make sure that our students get the best experience of school that we can, and here are some tips for you. Now we all dream for our classrooms to be cohesive and where learning can be maximized, but we also have nightmares of our class looking a little bit like this. So now let's talk about how the brain works so we can better understand what are the best methods of teaching. So Willingham describes schemas as our version of being on autopilot, where we can work through many thoughts and past connections at one time to make our thinking more efficient and fast. This is why when someone describes or when we see something that's fast, shiny, small, and expensive, we kind of automatically think of a sports car because of our past connections and experiences with a sports car. Now, unfortunately, our brain has certain limitations. For example, our working memory is pretty small in capacity, but there are ways that we can increase this by making as much of our information automatic into our long-term memory to increase the capacity of our working memory. Who knows what teenagers are already thinking about? So as teachers, we shouldn't try to bombard kids with too much information. We should give them an appropriate amount of challenge, be organized, be engaging, and don't teach and drag on forever. And know that kids are at different levels of their own learning. This is why it's so important to have basic knowledge of information, because the more you know, the more you can learn. That means the more critical thinking we can achieve. As teachers, we should do things that will keep the students' attention, create meaning to information that we're giving to them so they can remember it, connect it to prior knowledge, repeat it, and add emotion to the actual information, maybe through a story that will create some sort of relevance to them. And of course, if we want to make a really great impact in the lives of our students, we should form some sort of bond with them, that they know we care and that we're there for them. But this isn't the most essential part of being an effective teacher. On the other hand, what's even more important is being organized in the way that you give information and teach them in a way that they will understand the key concepts and focus on meaning. This is also how we get students to think abstractly, by giving a lot of analogies and a lot of examples and just transfer the first idea that they had of it into something a little bit more general. Now let's talk about intelligence, how teachers view it and how students understand it. Going back to schemas, learning styles, or what we consider to be learning styles, are one of the ways how we define intelligence. Willingham was not afraid to break it to us that learning styles don't exist. We do have certain preferences of how we wish to learn that make us more comfortable, but in reality, we can learn in all styles, and holding students to their specific learning style or learning preference will only keep our students restricted inside a box. So obviously we know that everyone isn't just absolutely great at everything, and this is sort of what the multiple intelligence theory is saying. But we encourage them in what they excel at, we should also encourage them to work on what they struggle in. People differ in their overall general intelligence, and this could be through the speed of their processing or the ability to gain new information. And we used to think that genetics and environment were 50-50 in the way that they played a role, but now we understand that genetics is really important when you're older, and environment is really important when you're younger, which is counter to what you would think would be the case. But of course, both play a role in how the children's grow, and this is really important because this means that since they are at different levels, if we do praise, we shouldn't praise ability and we shouldn't praise effort. But when we do praise, it should be specific and immediate. So, how else can we incorporate the things we have learned to be better teachers to our students? You can plan ahead, but be open to winging it, because anything can happen in the classroom. Don't forget to be engaging and deliver information in multiple interesting ways for the students. You don't have to accommodate to each child's preference, because that's just impossible with 30 children or more in a classroom, but base the style on the content of the information that you're delivering. It's tough being a first time teacher, especially with a relatively new curriculum like the Common Core, which is great in principle but has its drawbacks. But you need to learn how to work with what you got and get creative to best prepare your students. Try to give students multiple ways that you assess them with formative feedback where they can get better throughout the course of the subject. Match the method of teaching with what you want the students to learn. And the best, but possibly the most nerve wracking part, is to let the students choose from time to time. You can do it. Just don't forget that you'll make mistakes, and so will your students, but try to understand them so their learning and your teaching can be maximized.